Yo, Natsu here. A bit late compared to the usual. I left the house 13 minutes later than usual. So instead of at 8:10, I basically went out at 8:25. So yeah, a bit later. So, yesterday I didn't completely explain something, because I'm pretty sure I had said that he was going to pass an entire year here. But that was me actually reading a bit, badly, my own script. And yesterday before that actually, when I was actually looking for the names, I saw that, instead of 1 year, he was only supposed to pass a single month here, in that world, because of multiple reasons. Mostly the magic thing, which Deku didn't fully understand what was being said, which was that, an entire civilization was using magic wrongly, but by himself, even if he rose his magic stat to 100,000 and kept feeding himself fully at least once every day, it wouldn't change that much at this point. Basically, because of the world basically having felt that, and then started to overproduce magic for it to be, able to counter it. Basically now, anything that is able to absorb magic has a lot more than in that time, though they are weaker just because they don't use it the same way. Basically, the reason why they aren't able to actually absorb magic as easily now is actually because their body is already saturated with it, almost from birth. With people who don't train it, even people who do train it, actually, basically, they only refill their entire magic stock over a period of 24 hours. So basically, the larger your magic pool is, the more you recover per minute. So like someone who has 2 magic points, in the magic stat, basically every 12 hours he gets 1 more from his body absorbing enough magic from the outside continuously. Or let's say someone has, like Odin or the Guildmaster, which has over 2,000, he can actually get back a huge amount of points per hour, simply because, 2,000 divided 24 is still in the hundreds. So he can get a lot by that, which means that he has more than 1 point being given back to him per minute. So yeah, he can basically keep using magic continuously, simply because his magic pool is big enough. Basically, before, that wasn't happening. Now, thanks to the magic actually being around too much, they aren't able to actually absorb it as easily compared to Deku, who didn't have magic from the start, allowing his body to actually do that and get the skill to do so. Okay, so in the last part, I ended it with Deku and Quali coming back to the guild, with the guildmaster basically looking at Deku, asking if he's okay, and Deku basically just kind of having waited for, a while. Basically, only when Quali was sleeping did he go once back into the other zone to basically train for about 20 hours, but this time only in trying to actually use his wings with both Nen and Mana at the same time, which this time he actually found a way to do it, which was to not just create the wings with magic alone, to try and create them with Nen and magic at the same time. Well, pushing it further than before, though it still exploded a few times. With the only reason why he waited 20 hours to come back out, because, well, he kept trying it, was absorbing magic that was now being created in the room. Deku didn't actually know why magic was being created there, but it's actually because of the Nexus Key basically being connected to Deku on literally with his DNA by this point. And basically, Deku's body produces magic by himself. Now, just like it produces Nen. Though he doesn't produce a lot and in such small quantities that it's basically not a lot. But the room is able now, since it's connected to Deku, to actually produce magic as well, allowing him to train there for more efficiency. He's still leaving the world after a while, but basically he was doing that, which allowed him to actually raise, before he went back to the guild, his magic stats to around 50. Basically not doing the same thing as before, like absorbing a huge amount of it at once. It was more of, absorbing more than his body could take. That's not what he's doing anymore. Now he is just fully putting out his magic, then forcefully absorbing to fill himself up without going over. And basically, over the 20 hours, it kind of increased by itself again. Simply because when someone uses their magic and waits, depending on the amount of times they do it, they can over time get more magic points. Basically, that's how it works. It's just that Deku being able to absorb more magic over time, even though the room doesn't have a lot of magic, basically he needs to wait about 15 minutes in the room for the room to have enough magic to basically absorb and fill himself up. Which is the reason why he couldn't actually just, continuously absorb more than he could take. He just didn't have the amount that he needed to do that. But it was still enough to help him just increase his magic over time by just emptying it, filling himself back up, emptying himself, filling it back up. And basically over time with 2, 3, 4 times, increasing it by about 1 to 2 points. Though he still gains them a lot faster than normal people, even doing it like that, because of his skill, power learning. But yeah, Deku doesn't know yet that, he understood by this point that the room might change while he's doing stuff. He doesn't understand yet why it does that, but yeah, at one point, a few things will be basically happening in the room. Nothing in life will grow, but some stuff will start to happen at one point. But yeah, basically after that, after he came back out, he slept a bit as well. Just like Wally, before they started going again. Once they were in range for the Guildmaster to actually see them with the crystal, they basically called back the teleportation user, brought Deku and Quali back instantly, helping, everyone basically get back earlier. Which is then when the Guildmaster asks Deku if he's okay, and blah blah blah. With Deku actually hiding the over amount of magic that he has compared to right before, so that Kuoli didn't realize it, and for the Guildmaster not to see it either, or, well, everyone to feel it either. Since from what he understood, yeah, they all knew about it. So, yeah. Basically, Deku just kind of said the same lie, though for them it's what they really thought was happening, so for them it's the good answer. The Guildmaster didn't actually use his eye to see if Deku was lying this time, just because of how he seemed to have explained it to Kuali, and that, okay, he is pretty confident about it, and he really seems to not want to be doing it again for a while, most likely because he actually had a bit of a magic sickness. So, basically, he still asked Deku if he's okay, with Deku saying that, yeah, he's fine, he doesn't feel it anymore. The Guildmaster this time using his magic eye, seeing that he is telling the truth for that, but still tells Deku to basically relax for a bit. Deku is thinking about everything right now, and asks if some of them could try to teach him their magic, since he is able to copy a lot of things. Basically saying that the wings were copied from someone who had the power, he simply exchanged the power he needed to use them for with Nen instead of magic. So seeing other people use their magic and understanding how they work could help him get stronger. With a few of the guild members accepting, but telling him that they still want him to relax before then. The only one who actually decided to show him her magic was the young girl, which I think I said was Veroni. Like I said, I didn't name any of them except Valak and Kuali, so the other ones are a bit touchy for me, since I have trouble remembering them. Though something's funny, I have more of an easy time learning the name of characters than people in real life that I talk to every day. Sorry about that. But yeah, also sorry if I burp a lot today. I basically ate right before leaving. That's why I actually left late, because supper didn't get ready in time. Though at the same time, we started late, so it was already a lost cause for leaving at the same time as usual. But yeah, so basically she was showing her magic with a very poor capacity, since obviously she learned it from her dad, which isn't there anymore. Keeps training it slowly but surely because of her very low magic. But she is still able to show Deku, well, basically that she can play with it sometimes. Basically doing pranks on people, being able to grow herself a few centimeters, changing her hair color, and basically some other things, but really like very low level of transformation magic. Deku understanding that it's basically just using the magic to completely change your physical appearance, making you smaller, bigger, or whatever by either compressing your cells, extending them, well, compressing your cell or with magic, or creating more with magic. That's how he thinks of it. But also tries to think of it as just removing cells temporarily for reducing in size and stuff. And basically by the third day mark, he actually shows that he's able to do, well, same thing for the hair as her, changing the color. Surprising, like, literally everybody. because that means in 3 days he learned another magic. Since now that his magic is higher than hers, it is easier for him to train it, mostly since he gains more than 1 point per hour. Like every 30 minutes he gets 1 more point, since he's at 50 magic now, allowing him to basically use extremely low level spell like transformation, that the transformation itself costs around 2 points, and then for each minute you want to keep it, you basically need another point. So that's why Veroni can only use it from like time to time and not for long. But Deku can use it for a longer time and basically trains his magic with that now as well. Basically only transforming a small part of himself constantly, trying to do that, and then absorbing a part of magic from around him. When Deku is rested enough, basically 5 days after he came back, he asked to actually go on another quest, with the Guildmaster actually telling him that yeah, he should be capable now, but then actually asked Deku one thing. How does he do to actually disappear for a fraction of a second and come back well rested? With Deku just kind of hearing that and being like, oh, you were able to see that. With the Guildmaster saying that, well, even while he was in the guild training for that magic, well, transformation magic, he was seeing him do it from time to time. Just disappearing suddenly while being low on magic and just kind of filling himself back up suddenly. With Valak saying that, yeah, she was able to see that too. The others basically just asking what they're talking about, with Deku just kind of thinking and saying that, well, and just saying it, well, a half-truth. For him, it's almost the complete truth. For them, they'll mostly see it as okay. He basically says he cannot explain everything about it, since he doesn't understand it fully either. And he might not understand something correctly, and it might sound like a lie, even for the magic eye that the Guildmaster has. With a few people looking at him a bit weirdly, until he basically just says that he has the ability to bring himself to a kind of room where when he is inside of it, he can spend hours or days in there, while time on the outside doesn't seem to actually pass at all. He can also use that to actually go to different places, though those places can sometimes go at a much faster speed, making him age faster if he goes into those worlds. With the Guildmaster then, well, through the magic eye, seeing that he is telling the truth, the Guildmaster asking him if he is, well, from this world, knowing that some people are able to use magic that bring them to other dimension. And Deku saying that he isn't from here, but that he didn't lie about him most likely being the reason for the magic implosion a few days beforehand. And then the Guildmaster saying that, so, that's why some of his power don't make sense, or at least not for their point of view. With Deku saying that, yeah, basically. The Guildmaster asking him what his real age would be, with Deku actually saying that, well, when he isn't in his world, he can spend an entire year there and only age from about 2 da's. And that even though he looks 9, he's actually 10. Though because his age doesn't, well, since he doesn't age or change while in the room where he goes between worlds, his age doesn't seem to grow from that. Basically, from the Guildmaster's point of view, yeah, it kind of makes sense. Since he knows that other worlds exist, people who have storage magic and such should understand it pretty well as well, since obviously it's basically making another world temporarily for them. With the Guildmaster basically telling Deku that, well, if at any point he needs to go back, he can, but as long as he basically keeps in mind that he can come back there at any point. With Deku saying that he's going to stay here for a few more days before actually leaving, and that next time he comes back he might be older, though for them only a few days might have passed, which he doesn't know how right he is in that moment. So Deku basically just goes on another quest. Basically this time, instead of a hunting type quest, it's more of a collecting type. Basically going to a certain mountain not far from the city to actually gather a few types of stones and crystals from there. Basically telling him that he's going to have to mine, and that basically he needs to get the amount required on the request. Anything over that can be paid as extra or can be kept by the one who found them, making Deku pretty much okay with that. Basically saying that he wants to train just a few more days with other magic, since Frost actually tried to help him learn some earth magic. So basically, was it Frost? Odin has lightning and enhancement type. No, Odin only has enhancement type and reducement type magic, as well as his magic eyes. Yeah, I think it was Frost. Normally. Anyway, basically he was taught a bit of that, and basically wanted to train it for a few more days before actually going, saying that he's also going to try and train his ability to mix both magic and Nen into his wings. The Guildmaster basically being interested in that, saying, oh, so you're able to actually mix them. With Deku saying that there are meh results. Basically the Guildmaster telling him to show him. Deku saying they might be better outside to do that. Them going, someone putting a barrier magic around Deku, and then him trying to pump out both magic and then to create his wings. Basically not create them out of his own body. Well, he can, but last time he did it, he not only made them explode, but it also hurted him a huge amount, making him need to recover using his healing quirk for a bit. So basically what he does is just try to make them out of magic, and then at the same time, them holding on for a few seconds before exploding on themselves. Basically everyone being surprised, the magic shield dropping, Deku coming out with his clothes battered, with someone basically asking if he was okay. Then his clothes just kind of removing, but also creating new ones at the same time. Basically them looking at him hurt a bit, with him saying he's going to be fine in a few seconds. And basically showing that he's already healing. Then someone asking about the clothes, because that was weird. With Deku just saying that, oh, that's quite simple actually. Oh, there's a raccoon. I have to be careful. Sorry. Yeah, no, raccoons are cute but can be dangerous. Yeah, so anyway, basically someone asked about his clothes because that was weird. Are they self-healing? With Deku saying that no, actually, his clothes are made of energy. Well, Nan. And that even if he wears normal clothes, he reinforces them with Nan near constantly to train that. The Guildmaster looking at Deku a bit weirdly and asking him if he could try to do that with magic only. Deku creating wings out of pure magic. Then the Guildmaster saying, no, the clothes thing. Trying to create them with magic. Which Deku tries to do, basically without removing the other ones. Basically tries to create them on the ground. Which is hard. Basically pumping out a huge amount of magic that he doesn't have. Basically forcing him to use magic from the air around him, which all of them can feel the huge amount of magic just moving around to basically place itself around a single point and create the clothes that Deku just created. They saw that and basically just kind of yes, sorry about that. But yeah, so basically those clothes that Deku just made absorbed a huge amount of magic. Then when he said he could, but that it was exhausting and tried to, unmake them, he actually saw that they didn't actually want to release that magic. Basically, he didn't just create them out of magic and make it look physical. They became real clothes. Basically creation magic that he just used, which the Guildmaster knew about, as well as a few other people, and basically just told him that that was dangerous to use creation. Well, some of them told him it was dangerous because of the amount of magic that was pumped in from the surrounding. But then the Guildmaster actually saying that he probably move out of the way, frog! Sorry. What the hell? How many frogs are there? That's the 5th one! But yeah, anyway. Basically saying that he probably just got creation magic and that he should check that, because the way it felt wasn't the same way as when he made the clothes with Nen. Basically, Deku looked at it and saw creation level 1. But not creation magic, just creation itself. Which the two are different. Basically, the difference is that creation magic uses magic to create objects, and once those objects basically the caster doesn't want them anymore, he can make them disappear. Creation is different. It can use either any type of materials around, or substitute anything for magic itself, which costs a lot of magic, since it creates something out of nothing, compared to ice, which you basically freeze the area around and forcefully create ice out of the moisture in the air, just like for water magic, that you basically absorb that, though basically creating elements out of magic do cost a lot of magic. If it's in the air around you, though, it's a lot easier because you can just fuel it with that. But in contrast, if you want to create an ice block in an area without any moisture in the air, you're basically going to pump out like 80 times the amount of magic that you would normally use. Which is the reason why Deku right there basically used all of his magic and would have used around 150 more points from the air around him, basically passing all through him. His magic stat increased in that moment. Like, no joke. Just from the training he had done, he had already increased it to almost 53, 54, around that point, since he was nowhere near going all out. But that pumped out all of his magic, but at the same time basically forcing more magic to pass through him, that it actually rose him to 58 in, like, that moment. Making Deku kind of dizzy a bit as well, because that was the first time that he was not just using the magic around him to put it at one point. He was actually absorbing it in his body and then sending it out at the same time. Basically taking a lot more out of him. Basically, he just said about creation, which the Guildmaster didn't know about. He knew of creation magic. Though sometimes people do have the skill creation, but they don't understand what it is and basically just call it creation magic. But those people can't make their things disappear. But basically they think it's because of the amount of mana used, and that's basically it, compared to what it truly is. But yeah, basically Valak, to be precise, took the clothes and tried to rip them to see if they were tough, at least. And they are actually around as strong as Deku's own clothes. So, without actually forcing, which she could literally tear up an armor by forcing a bit, but Deku's clothes are actually tougher than a normal armor. And by normal armor, I mean like something made of leather, not something made of iron or something like that. So, light armor. Basically, his normal clothes are tougher than that, which is surprising to her, and for a few other people. Basically asking Deku how much of his, nen does he put in there when he makes them? Since he was literally just trying to recreate the exact same type of clothing, so same toughness and everything. And basically said that it doesn't cost him anything, almost. Then Deku actually asked something to the others, asking how strong are people normally around here. With the Guildmaster saying that he's actually around a normal magician's level, and that their guild is actually pretty low on the list, with only one person actually being overly strong compared to normal people, which he isn't there right now. Deku just saying that he thought they were all strong, with them saying that, well, compared to normal people, yeah, but because of how most guilds actually forces their members to grow stronger by using items or different types of magic, while we don't, all of us are actually at strengths that would be normal for someone who trains normally or fight normally, making their guild actually further in the back compared to most guilds. Deku saying that, it is a bit surprising, but what if they trained more? With them saying that, well, they can, but magic mostly develops over time. With Deku just saying that the last maneuver he did actually increased his magic stat by 4 in one go. With literally everyone just looking at him like, what'd you say? With Deku just saying that literally, he was forcefully absorbed, well, from what he was doing, even without him wanting to, he was basically absorbing a huge amount of magic from the air around him, absorbing it into his body before sending it back out of his body. Which was very intense and hurted a lot. But most likely, and basically the only reason he was able to deal with that was because of him being able to close his pain receptors, though he can still feel it through his entire body afterward. Instead of hurting, it's more like a numbness. And basically, the only reason he actually survived it that easily, well, he would have survived anyway, even without the healing quirk. But if he didn't have it, he would be on the ground in complete pain and most likely having a few part of his body damaged from having all of his cells basically activated from a huge amount of exterior magic passing through them and being thrown out instantly instead of absorbed, concentrated, and then used. But basically what he said was that his theory was, well, that he absorbed too much magic over time. Well, that normally he absorbs magic to increase it, like forcefully, but that right now he probably just had so much magic coursing through his body that wasn't his in a few seconds that, well, his body not being able to absorb the magic and just passing it through forcefully grew to actually accommodate a part of that, just like he does when he trains himself. With the Guildmaster basically grabbing the clothes, which are still intact, from Valak not actually trying to rip them up when she saw that they were tougher than leather armor. And basically the Guildmaster said that, well, he was going to keep them for if at one point he comes back, or if he can't use, well, those clothes from being out of Nen. Deku just saying that, yeah, that could be nice. And basically, some people still asked him about the wings if it still hurts, with him saying that he's fine, but that as long as he only creates them normally, and then add either Nen or magic, he should be fine. Basically making only the Guildmaster realize what he just said, with the others thinking that, oh, creating them only with magic or only with Nen. But the Guildmaster understood that he grows his wings and can then add something else to it. Didn't say it directly to him, but did make a face of, you're a weird one, you know? Before basically going back in the guild and telling him that, well, he can finish training a bit before actually leaving. Then pointing towards the exact mountain that he needs to go and telling Deku that with his speed, and that if it increased since last time, he should be able to get there before a few hours if he leaves now. With Deku saying that he's only going to leave the next day, so not too bad of a problem. Basically during the day trying to do that, then when he's sleepy going to sleep in the Nexus Zone, coming back to train more, and basically just doing that since he needs Earth to control Earth magic, obviously. So he can't actually train that in the Nexus Zone, but while in the Nexus Zone, And while he's sleeping, he's trying to learn to actually forcefully use transformation magic constantly. And actually found a way as well to mimic it with only Nen. So that now he can also hide his mark, well, his guild mark for when he's going back to his world. Basically, after that, he just went to the mountain. Basically, forcefully controlled the magic around him without passing it directly through his body. Forcefully ripped out a massive chunk of the mountain. Then turned all of the... well, basically turned the rocks and stuff into sand over time in like a few minutes while controlling earth and wind magic to basically only keep, well, the useful stuff that he actually wants. Basically leaving him with around about 4 times the amount that was requested of him. Basically, from doing that, he dug about 8 times what someone normally digs out in an entire day in less than an hour, and basically allowed him to find a lot more, well, of what he was looking for. He went back to the guild basically after the guild master, before he left, gave him an item pouch. Basically a pouch where it uses space magic to basically store stuff for a while. Obviously, it has a limit. It can only carry about a 10 by 10 by 10 by 10 meter cube of mass in total. Time still moves in it compared to space magic that actually lets you store items. And stuff doesn't repair itself while in there. Since yes, some types of space magic can let you put item in it and heal it over time. Though basically it takes magic from you to forcefully fix the item. So even if you find something like a completely destroyed book that you don't know at all the content, if you are able to have one of those and put it inside, it will be fixing itself over time, having everything it needs to have. Though most people don't do that because they have a limited amount of space in this, since it's mostly incomplete magic, which people also don't like to put broken item in it if they don't know if it's actually valuable, because it does take some of their magic. But yeah, basically when Deku came back to the guild, he basically put the items that were requested, then asked if there was any place where he could use the rest for different things. Basically, the guildmaster asking how much he got, with Deku saying about 6 times the amount that the request was asking for. With a few people just telling him that this was way too fast, and he should slow down. With him just saying that, well, since he's going to leave, he wanted to at least prepare some stuff for when he goes back. So he kind of wanted to grab as much as possible. Basically, the guildmaster telling him to keep the pouch, but that depending on when he leaves, he won't have time to use anything. Basically asked Deku how much he got of other things as well. With Deku saying that he got a lot from, well, mostly everything that he could find. Basically showing what he found, which was many naturally formed crystals and such. Well, crystals and gems. Magic ores as well. and a few other things, with a lot of people just being like, those can only be found deeper in the mountain. How did you get that much? With Deku explaining what he did for the first chunk, and then saying that afterward he was only using wind and earth magic to basically dig a tunnel over time, kind of just making the earth magic crumble a bit of the rock itself, then using the wind magic to basically take it away as if it was sand in a tornado, pushing it outside. Making sure though that the mountain was perfectly safe and everything. With the guildmaster just kind of thinking that this is your way of digging? But then, instead of being angry at Deku because, well, it could have been dangerous, he just decided to think, well, no, he stopped himself and started thinking in a different way. Wait, that means if we could find two people who are able to work in tandem and have those two types of magic, we could possibly find a way to dig extremely well and get a lot of crystals, minerals, and other things, right? Basically telling Deku that normally people can have a hard time using multiple types of magic at once, and even worse with his amount of magic. But that his way of doing it is actually pretty impressive. And that he might actually try to find a way to, well, do that. Or find people who could do it to actually make it easier for some places to get more, well, ores and stuff. As well as for them to get more money. Deku being happy about that, and basically then showing one last thing that he had found, which basically was a bigger type of crystal with the form of a flame inside of it. With the guildmaster just freaking out, because that's a fire mana crystal. Basically, if someone is able to absorb the magic inside of it, they can normally either learn a spell or get more power as well as, well, that element to control, like with a lot more ease. Basically, telling Deku that what he just found is something that normally big guilds use to force out new members that have potential to be better than most people who had already trained for a lot of years. And that if he wants to use it, he should basically keep hiding it until he goes back to his world. Because here, anyone who actually finds out about those, basically any higher guild, well, bigger guild that hears of it, basically nearly goes to war simply because they don't want to lose their places, and that those are extremely valuable, and that most people who find them don't want to sell them unless they don't need them at all. So to never talk about that to anyone unless he already used it, which then again could put him in trouble from someone actually trying to hunt him, from having used something extremely valuable on a weak guild, like some people would call it. Basically, the guildmaster telling Deku to relax for a while before leaving, and basically just to leave him with a few of the gems and ore, and that he'll find a way to basically make some armor. Basically, Deku asking if it could be something that has the ability to grow with the user. The guildmaster saying that those types of things are hard to make. Well, those that make them also take a lot of money. With Deku thinking a bit about it, and just basically saying that, well, what about paying with the rest of the ores. The guildmaster asking what Deku means, with Deku just saying, well, what if you bring everything, tell him to create, well, whatever you want him to create, and that the rest of the items can be used to pay for it. And that if there's more than what it would cost to create the item, to basically keep it in a tab, so that next time you come in, you have less to pay. Basically, the guildmaster saying that he knows some places do that, but he doesn't know if the place where he's thinking about will accept that. But he can try. Basically, Deku goes to, well, the library and basically starts reading nearly every book there that he can until the guildmaster comes back with whatever he wanted to give him. Basically, Vala coming down to talk with him a bit, trying to grab him once, Deku basically jumping to the ceiling, grabbing onto something that was there with his tail, well, growing his tail and grabbing onto it, then reading his book upside down. Valak just kind of pouting a bit, because she, like I explained in the first part, with this world, she likes children. Not in any weird way, it's literally just that, oh, she really likes taking care of children. And she sees him as just a 9-year-old kid who should be protected and have more fun. So even if she knows that he doesn't need it, she is still kind of pushy about it. Quali basically coming to see Deku at one point, asking if he ate. Deku realizing that he's been in the library for over 30 hours without eating, sleeping, drinking, or whatever. Basically coming down and saying that no, he actually didn't in a while. Quali just laughing a bit, saying that he really seems to, well, lose himself in books. With Deku saying that, well, with him being able to think pretty fast, reading even faster, thanks to it, and having 3 minds, Valak just asking, wait, 3? Didn't you only have 2? With Deku just saying that, well, he keeps it always active. With Quali just telling him that normally people start to think normally people don't do that because, well, normally people with multiple personalities is called a disorder. And from time to time, some people who keep it active for too long can forget which mind is the real one. With Deku just saying, okay, I don't really have trouble with that. I basically name, the moment I activate it, it's basically 1, 2, and 3. With us keeping the number and basically knowing which is the real and which is the false. Quali just going to say something and basically just thinking, normally you're not able to do that. Well, saying it, but also just kind of, how? Since normally they all think they're the same. Well, at first those that were created from the skill basically know they are a skill, but the longer they stay out, the more they think they're the original, because, well, the mind is always connected. But if he's able to do that, well, it's actually surprising. Mostly since now that means that his multi-mind skill rose to level 2. Deku asking if there's a way to actually see how far they are, with Quali saying that, well, she knows that some people are able to actually use a type of magic that lets you see, sorry about that, that lets people see the degree of aptitudes they have for certain elements, as well as the amount of what is it called, proficiency with skills and magic, to actually see how much they have, like, on a percentage based amount, until they're able to either obtain it or increase its level. But that she doesn't know anyone in that city who has it. Deku saying it's okay, and that even once he leaves here, he's basically mostly going to have it active at, like, all times. Basically just making them like, yeah, you might increase it a lot. So basically, him eating something, which, yeah, he's felt that he needed. But for some reason, he didn't feel hungry or thirsty beforehand, or having the need to sleep. Which he basically starts to talk with his two other mind. Which... oh right, it's parallel mind. Sorry, basically talking to his two other parallel minds. Having a conversation about that precisely. With them basically trying to, like, theorize why he doesn't feel it. With basically the ideas being thrown around, with them thinking by the end that the most likely outcome is that, well, when they're concentrated on something, they kind of forget about everything. And since time is already accelerated for them, basically with thought acceleration level 3, basically a single second is already 3 seconds. Though, when they look at it, they actually saw that it rose to 5. Since, compared to when Deku was doing nearly everything else. Basically, he only started to activate his parallel mind skill when he started reading. Then basically thinking to always keep it on. While thought acceleration was on from the start, the moment he learned that he had it. And since he was already using that before it became a skill, 24/7, he basically just understand that, yeah, no, it's going to go very fast for that one. And now also for parallel mind. Basically, when the Guildmaster comes back, he gives Deku an armor, saying that, yeah, the way he decided to do stuff did work for the blacksmith to actually take what was left, with Deku actually having given so much of a tab on it that the blacksmith made more than just what the Guildmaster wanted. Basically, instead of just making a upper body armor, he also made... oh, there's a skunk. I need to go faster. But yeah, so basically, instead of only making upper body armor, he also made a helmet, as well as gauntlets. Yeah, for the lower body, there isn't anything, but he was already told that it doesn't really matter that much for that part, simply because, well, simply put, when the Guildmaster gave the items, he basically said that, well, the boy for who that is made, his normal clothes are already as strong as leather armor. Well, even tougher, so he only needs some small thing, and it's basically a gift for him leaving for a bit. Basically saying that, well, he is someone with dimensional magic that can go to another world that goes faster. So when he comes back, he might only be leaving for a few days for them, but he might age from a few years. Basically explaining the reason why, oh yeah, he needs something that will grow with him. Making the men understand. Basically the one the Guildmaster went to for making the armor is actually someone who also has dimensional magic. Though he can only make, what he has is actually a weaker version of the thing that lets you create your own dimension. But all he can actually have in there is basically around an entire square, 1 kilometer by 1 kilometer by 1 kilometer square maximum, where he basically doesn't have control over time that there, it's basically the same. And basically he uses that as his own home. Basically he has a door that's connected to his magic that allows anyone to enter his shop by that door, basically in his own pocket dimension. So he doesn't bug anyone. Nobody can actually track him down perfectly unless he actually wants them to find him, or if they already know where he is. So yeah, basically he's able to do that. Sorry, there's a weird sound not far from me, so pretty sure it's an animal. Anyway, basically Deku is given the armor. He accepts it. He basically puts it on temporarily. And basically the Guildmaster says that the last option, that is what the Guildmaster actually wanted to put on it, is an auto change feature. Basically, it was going to be on a necklace that when Deku thinks, and basically pours magic into the armor and then thinks hidden, it basically absorbs the entire armor into the necklace, so that he can then also put it back on himself at any point. The armor can also modify itself by absorbing other pieces of equipment, as long as they have magic in them. Basically making Deku, already have a part of his hero suit. So basically at one point he will be able to create other pieces for the armor, swap them around, and basically create sets that he can make for his hero suit that can be changed for different forms, from having more than simply I have 8 different right hand gauntlets, and when I take it out I basically choose which set I take. So basically making a mix and match for different elemental resistance or stuff like that. Or even just to actually have different colors or stuff. Basically think Elsa's Requip, but a lot less powerful since it's only for armor. But yeah, basically that's the time when Deku leaves. Basically leaving town, telling them that he's actually going to hide himself at one place to leave, because he reappears at the exact same place where he left from, and basically so that he doesn't appear in the middle of something he shouldn't be in, he's basically going to another spot. Basically where he decided to go was underwater, basically creating a wind ball around himself before going down, making a hole underground where he then hardened the rock, while having made sure that there's a way to have air in there. And anyway, basically it's oxygen that he needs, so he made sure to have enough to teleport out. And as long as he comes back there, Since even if he leaves for like 20 years in his other world, it's only going to be 40 days. The air won't have any time to basically rot, let's just say it like that. Yes, it might become a bit bad, but he shouldn't have too much problem by that point. Or at least that's what he's thinking, which is true. And I just realized that I talked a lot more because this was only supposed to take half the part from Deku staying in this world. But I explained once again things in way too much detail. Which is something that I do nearly every time. But I still find it exhausting to myself because, yes, sometimes I wouldn't even need to explain all that much. So, most of my stories could actually go way faster or slower, depending on which they are, from me not explaining enough in some stories, or sometimes explaining too much in some others, like this one. But yeah, basically he came back to his house, since he only spent around a month. Instead of 12 months, which basically give 48 hours in another world, only 1 month, well, basically only 4, if you do the math correctly. So yeah, basically Deku came back, like way earlier than his mom was thinking of. Him saying that, well, the world where he went to has magic, but that because of something he's actually going to go to another one of those instead of staying in that one, though that he's going to go back there because, well, it's actually fun. Saying that he only stayed a month, asking how much time has passed, with his mom saying 4 hours, and then him understanding that, okay, so for every month I stay there, 4 hours pass, so that's why 12 months was 2 days. Basically, he hadn't tried it before. If it was just, oh yeah, no matter how long I spend in another world, it comes back to 2 days here or something, so now he knows. Basically, his mom told him to relax a bit since he was away from home for an entire month for him, with Deku basically sleeping the night before leaving to his next world. Since obviously he wanted to take, well, an entire year away, but he couldn't. Or at least from his point of view, he couldn't. But yeah. His next world doesn't have magic. Well, I'm going to explain it right now. It's the one where he found a city not far away with people that were more animal-like. So, beastmans. Basically, that world doesn't have magic or skills or stuff like that. It's basically more of all physical things. And yes, some supernatural stuff, but it's not actually supernatural. It's basically science that was so far ahead that it looked like magic. Basically, the saying that is, oh, once science go far enough, it just looks like magic. Just like if you take your phone to, let's say, the medieval age, everyone would just look at you as if you were a witch and try to kill you. So, with far enough science, you could call it magic. Which is why, basically, the only things that are special in that world Deku will understand is mostly made from scientific advancement and stuff like that. But yeah, hope you liked it. Leave a like if you did. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comment section. I was supposed to start this world, but I couldn't. because I talk way too much. But yeah, hope you liked it. Natsu, out.